Hello and welcome. Today we've got Mr. Trumptastic and we are going to be discussing the collapse of the financial system. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for our free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Mr. Trumptastic can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Mr. Trumptastic, how are you and what have you been up to?
Thank you so much, Nicholas. As always, it's a pleasure to be on your channel. Things have been going very well for me. It's a lot of things happening, obviously, in the financial markets. We are starting to see, I was starting to see a lot of this stuff in front of the scenes. And obviously through MSM, people are dropping off resignations of CEOs left and right. But in terms of the financial markets, I think a lot of things we'll start to see very closely as we move closer to the end of the year. And obviously Christmas is 45 has always said that we'll have a great Christmas. So, but thank you for for inviting me as always. I know you've been busy. I've been watching a lot of your videos and thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you for everything that you do as well. And I've been watching you. And I just want to say, with this matrix system that we live in, we see the school systems falling apart, with the whole thing that they want us to put in our arms. Even with critical race theory and what they're teaching our children, they're being pulled out by their parents from, and then we see so many nurses and doctors who are wanting to leave as well. So we see a lot of things happening, and like you said, we see resignations happening worldwide. So this is a collapse of the system. Now, I want to focus on the financial system, or the collapse of the financial system. Now, what are you hearing in respect to the Federal Reserve and also the digital currency going forward in the future?
Yes, well, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of things specifically tied to the RV. I do believe that the digital currencies, obviously, as this RV happens, we want to see, certain cryptocurrencies explode in anticipation of that, because once we move over from the SWIFT to the new quantum financial system, obviously, the primary bridge currency in what I've been hearing is XRP. And obviously, there's a lot of breadcrumbs as to how we transition over to this new system. And I didn't catch this. I should have caught this a while back. There's a transition in the borrowing rate from LIBOR, which is a London interbank overnight rate, which is like the prime rate here in the United States. It's a kind of a standard rate that banks use. And obviously I'm in banking. So that's going to be phased out as of 12/31/2021. And so then I was researching a lot, and a lot of the people that I talked to, as well as through Telegram and other sources. And my understanding is they're transitioning to SOFR, which is secured overnight banking rate, which is under the quantum financial system, is what I was finding out. So that in terms of that information, along with what I know, that's the phase out was going to be at the end of the year. I don't really understand that. But that's the transition that we're moving from the current SWIFT to the QFS is what I believe. I think a lot of this has already been done behind the scenes, and there's going to be a point in time where when we transition, the codes are going to be entered into the system where we transition, because my understanding is that the QFS and then the SWIFT system have been running in parallel since August of last year. I've obviously listened to Charlie Ward a lot, and he signified that. And once the two lines are converged, then we'll be able to see all the black swan event and the collapse of the financial markets in terms of the stock market crash, and all these different asset classes will be readjusted, and then we can finally move into this wonderful world that we want to go to, which is 5D.
Now, I was listening to Alex Collier the other day, a very interesting guest that I interviewed as well a few months ago, well, quite a few months ago. And I heard his audio clip, and I think it was sometime last week. And he was talking about the dinar revaluing. Can you tell us what you think about that? And he said that something that has to happen at the end of this year. Why you think he said that? And where do you think he's getting that information from? It's very interesting.
Yeah, well, Alex Collier, he's been one of my favorite truthers. I woke up with him back when I fully woke up. He educated me, and the 1994 video is, I believe, it's one of the when we look back, it'll be the video that you can kind of refer to that tells everything about what's really going on. So, and what he says is absolutely correct. He's been consistent in saying that at the end of this year, we'll see this entire system, the financial collapse of the cabal system, come to fruition. And his podcast confirmed that to me. It's signified that the Iraqi dinar rate, the out-of-country rate, is going to be set at somewhere 1190, which was kind of blew my mind because I always anticipated it'd be somewhere around $3 to $4 to $5 within that range. But the in-country rate should be posted somewhere around 481, and then it's going to be allowed to float up. So I know through the float up, it's going to go around near the $11.90, $10, $11 rate. So maybe that's what the White House anticipates. So that's why it's been set at that level for out of country when we go into redemption centers. Obviously, all these rate things are speculation until we really go in there, right, and get our currencies exchanged. But yeah, it's an exciting time. It means that, to me, it's telling me that Iraq, in terms of the resources that they have through this reset, they're going to get their sovereignty back, and that's the true value of the dinar, what it's really truly worth in their asset-backed system.
I just want to remind everyone that if you wish to buy dinar or dongs or zims or anything like that, you can buy them from nisara.shop. I'll leave the link below. I've used them before. They ship international, and they're very good. So where do you think that we get this information from, Mr. Trumptastic, about the Iraqi dinars, about them being revalued? And do you think that when we do revalue at the end of this year, if at the end of this year, that we will have the exchanges into the new accounts, which would be the new quantum system accounts? So it's into the new system. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, my research has been telling me that in terms of how we'd be able to get access would be, I was hearing that we would be provided, I'm not sure, a laptop or computer to kind of manage our QFS accounts outside of the current system. So it's going to be, obviously, the new system and the old system are going to be joined. And that's where we're going to see the codes entered into the system, where that's going to converge both of the parallel systems together. And that's going to be through the Starlink, satellites that's already up. And I understand it's running. So we're just waiting, I believe, for this Black Swan event, global scare event, will trigger everything. And I thought it was going to be a gradual process where we see, gold and silver and all these things happening in sequential order, but it's going to be, as 17's always said, boom, 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 the 4 booms in a week to remember. And 45's always said we'd have a great Christmas, his favorite holiday. So I have to believe, and I always trust what he says, that, this is going to happen in this explosive fashion. Starting to see the inclinations of all of those indicators in the financial markets. We know that the VIX indicator, which is the fear indicator in the markets, at an all-time high. And all of the things that I'm seeing with regards to the rate of the sulfur going to the moving into the sulfur from the LIBOR rate, and just researching a lot, I'm starting to see all these things converging.
How about the ZIMs? Alex Collier mentioned that the ZIM notes, they are made from special paper because the governments or the white hats, I don't know, they made sure they were printed out so they are redeemed and recognized more as bonds to be released, by the military, but as bonds. Can you explain the logic behind that, what that means?
So I think in terms of my understanding, it's always been they are bonds, not a currency. I've been educated from that with a lot of people that I've discussed that's been investing or, anticipating for this reset for decades. And so obviously bonds are debts, right, to the U.S. corporations. So they're going to be paid as so, and which is 1-to-1, because any kind of debt is like the Chinese bonds or the European, like German bonds, are going to be paid to the bearer on demand fully. And so supposed to be 1-to-1. And then obviously, I'm not sure if the white hats would want everything to be, they would want a lot of trillionaires, or, because $100 trillion notes are the top. So I think a lot of it is likely going to be for humanitarian efforts, as it should be. But the payout of the ZIM is my understanding the biggest of all of them, and the natural resources that Zimbabwe has is by far, I think, one of the top in the world. So it's going to be, obviously, for the people there, great. It's going to be a huge transition, but for people going to exchange it, it will be, my understanding, the top, I can say currency, but the ones that we know, it will be the top one. We already know that the dinar is the one that's likely going to be first. So we're going to be leading by that. The dong is the best value. So there's different characteristics of each of these currencies or bonds that they have. But ultimately, it's to free us from enslavement, free those countries to provide them from a valuation of their currencies, indicative of the assets that they have in those countries.
Absolutely. So with the ZIMs, they do 100 trillion note. So if it were to revalue at one pence or 1 cent, I mean, what are we looking at there? And of course, they're saying that it would only be redeemed and used only, the condition is, for humanitarian purposes. So for an example, something that we could work on to give back to the communities, to restore what we have been raped from by the cabal. And that's what this Bonds humanitarian project is, to restore the world, to restore the earth. So, I mean, what kind of figures is that? 1 trillion, note. If it was to go for, you're saying 1-to-1, but let's just say 1 pence or 1 cent.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's supposed to be 1-to-1. However, I'm not sure if the White Hats want trillionaires to be, walking around. So I think they're going to cap it. And that's what I've been hearing, is likely that they're going to cap it at some specific amount. Maybe I've been hearing 11 cents to 30, or 11 cents to up to 70 cents per million. And so, I've been hearing a little bit higher than that, but we won't know till we go in there. But it's a huge, any way you put it, it's a huge amount of money that we're going to get. The rest of it is going to go for humanitarian efforts. Now, will those humanitarian efforts be chosen in terms of pre-populated lists that we have? That remains to be seen. It's encouraged that everybody bring like a 1-page synopsis of what they want to do with, their projects, because I think you'll get a higher contract rate if you do so. But it's good to be prepared. But at the end of the day, it's the ZIM it's always been the highest in terms of exchange, and it's indicative of their assets. But I think the White Hats and their purpose, as well as us truthers for humanitarian efforts. And, I look forward to whatever that is, where I either, pick a project or be prepared going in. I'm just looking forward to going into a world where, we can help our fellow man.
So do you think that they will get, when they pay out this money, because it could be a lot, they could even pay it out slowly?
Yes, exactly. What you're saying is absolutely accurate. So since it's an enormous amount of money, obviously there's going to be huge in terms of background checks, and looking for nefarious, history, obviously. And then obviously the payout is going to be for humanitarian efforts, which is going to be in a more of a structured payout, like a lottery. So maybe it goes over a 7-year period. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do it. Maybe it goes over your lifetime. But that way you're in terms of this whole exchange is going to be where my understanding is 1/10 of 1% of the truthers are 1% of the entire population, and then it's 1/10 of 1% that's really knows about this RV. And so we're the select of the select, I believe. And so, but we've been chosen to be the leaders and going into this 5D community to be humanitarian. So that's how I believe my research has led me to be this. This is what I've concluded with.
Absolutely. And why the dinar first? Why do people say the dinar has to go first? What is it about the dinar, the Iraqi dinar, that has to go first? And then tell us, why not the Vietnamese and the Zims or the other ones, or the Iranian Iral?
I think, well, that part of it is, it's a good question, and I think it has to maybe relate to the part where Iraq has been kind of like in the middle of all of these cabal manipulation and everything, and in terms of the Desert Storm and all this stuff. But it's, I think Iraq indicates from, I think, a visible standpoint that in terms of the release of enslavement. And so they're, with the Kuwaiti, how they're tied with the Kuwaiti dinar when it revalued. And so I think they have been chosen to be the first, and everything is tied to that. And so the history of it, obviously, I haven't studied from that, high regard, but I just know that the dinar is the first. And so, positioned there, because there's some speculation as to if this thing is going to stagger where the dinar goes first, and maybe it's delayed where the dong and the rest of these guys go, second or third, or my understanding is it's going to be everything on a level playing field all at once. And so, if it does stagger, we know that the dinar will lead the way. So that's where I've always been obviously positioned for, but you want to be diversified. I'm not a financial advisor though, so you have to use your discernment, and then I'll obviously do your own research.
Now, I understand that the reason for the for the many wars in Iraq, especially when we saw Obama's administration, the reason for that one of the reasons was to stop their revaluation of their currency happening, so they can keep them poor. Because when they revalue their currencies, they would have more purchasing power. And one thing the cabal does not want is for other countries to have that kind of power. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, yeah, exactly like you said, I totally agree. Also, I think Iraq, my understanding is everything in the Middle East, there's kind of a secret reason as to why, because there's stargates. There's obviously a lot of portals that the cabal's been kind of hiding from us. I learned this from Alex Collier and other truthers space, in terms of traveling to different wormholes and galaxies and those things. They're all in the Middle East. And so the cabal has been, obviously, there's a reason as to why they restrict a lot of things there. And so I think ultimately all these technologies, all these things that have been suppressed from us, I think are going to be provided back to us. And obviously Iraq is the place, I believe, where a lot of that is at. I also know from the research that I've done is that there's been confrontations from the United States military to giants, or things of the Nephilims, those things that are obviously at a very, very high level. If you've done the research in terms of a lot of things that we know, that is not necessarily, but could be off planet or could be in Earth, and a lot of things that you kind of dig into. And so I think a lot of that hidden things are in Iraq. So I think that's a lot of the reasons as to why the cabal continues to try to hide those things, and why it's super valued, not just the resources, but the entrance ways to a lot of these things that have been suppressed to us.
Absolutely. And I look forward to it. It's very exciting for the truth to come out worldwide. Absolutely. Well, Mr. Trumptastic, it's been an absolute honor to have you on my show. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yeah, first and foremost, as always, thank you so much for this platform and allowing me to express myself. It's always an honor to be on your show, and you're, as I always said, the forefront of our movement. So thank you very much. For everyone, obviously, I wanted to say it's been a certainly an up and down ride, but we know that with this journey, we know the script, we know the destination. The destination is something that's very special. So that you're a part of it, just the fact that you're, listening to this is indicative of how special you are. So just keep looking at the light at the end of the tunnel. Don't look at the back to see how long it's taken. Don't look just to see how dark it is right now, just to know that, all the indicators are showing that we're going to see credits to the end of this epic movie. So stay strong, stay positive, and always remember everything is going to be simply Trumptastic.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And we'll speak soon. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.